Okay, so with Don Saladino,
Whatever he says, I agree. I'm just kidding.
I tend to agree with that too. He's a very smart guy, and just obviously looking at him, he knows what he's talking about. We were talking about tracking versus the feel, tracking macros versus, just going by a feel and what your body feels. Is there, in your opinion, do you find it the best to learn to track first and then you can go by a feel? Or how important is it? Let's say we're trying to get the best body composition. We're trying to look like Don, look like you. What would you suggest to do?
Start by tracking. It's kind
have
of,
to track
you
to start.
have to know what you're
That makes
ingesting.
sense.
Otherwise,
Yeah.
it's just
random.
Know anything,
it's just random. Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
But after a while, again, it depends on what outcome that you're looking for. I don't track right now.
Yeah,
I know.
But since you've tracked?
But for years, I tracked.
Okay. And you can look at something and you're that's 50 grams.
Exactly.
Yeah,
and then I also recommend if someone is new on their journey or they don't have the results that they want, if they do not have the body composition or health outcomes that they want, they have to go back to the drawing board.
Mm-hmm.
You have to.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, I think that's like with anything, right? You have to, if you want results, you have to track. So would you say, all right, and there's so many different schools of thought. I think, well, not that I think that I know the training and nutrition are two of the most just so all over the place. This camp, this camp, this camp, this camp, this camp. The best time, let's say, to have carbs, is it before and after a workout? What works best for you?
I would say so.
Okay.
If you care about performance, then certainly before a workout. And if you are, let me put it this way. So your initial question is, when is the best time to have carbs?
Best time.
I would say before and after training. That sounds great.
Nice.
However, is it likely that someone could push out a post-feeding window for recovery?
Mm-hmm.
You could.
Okay.
But
how long would you say that window could be?
Within 24 hours.
Okay. So can be a deep window.
But again, I would say that's a lot of food to eat at once. Yeah. And it's being a bit strategic with how you're going to be able to consume the food that you need to consume.
Yeah. Okay. Nice. All right. So in terms of the training aspect now, and this is something I've talked with our mutual friend, Andrew Huberman, about a lot. And I was always on this mentality. And I think a lot of people, when you're athletes and you have to train every day of the more equals better results. And I was, lifting 5-6 times a week. And he's like, dude, what are you doing? Don't do that. Do 3 times a week. And then you can run a couple different variations each time a week. What do you think the best rhythm in terms of, I guess, just overall workout would be?
People should move every day. It doesn't mean you have to train hard every day, but you have to have movement incorporated into your life. We were talking about what I think is really important before we start recording. And it's this idea of intermuscular adipose tissue, IMAT. The way that you maintain healthy skeletal muscle is you have to move. Unhealthy muscle is sedentary muscle. And when you are sedentary, then your muscle over time becomes more insulin resistant. It's kind of like a swamp. And that's why activity is so important. In terms of hard training, I train hard 3 days a week.
3 days a week?
Yeah.
Yeah.
My husband trains hard 1 day a week. And not by choice, but by utility. That's when he can train.
Yeah. Okay. So talk to me more about the IMAT. That's really interesting. Yeah. And it's kind of like, things have it, they're different. It's the, one size fits all. It's body fat percentage is what is the tracking metric, but this IMAT's different.
Yeah.
Go in depth on that. I think it's very interesting.
So IMAT is intramuscular adipose tissue. And we really frame things up in general about body fat percentage as if body fat percentage is the major meaningful marker.
Yeah, that's what anybody tracks. Hey, are you 10%? Hey, are you 12? What are you?
I think that's a mistake.
Yeah.
I think that's a mistake.
Thanks for taking that misnomer away from me.
Yeah. I think the real issue is this intermuscular adipose tissue. And intermuscular adipose tissue is extra fat tissue within that muscle. And that happens over time when you are not training. And when you have a steak that's like a ribeye steak, you get this fat infiltrated steak. And that's what happens to your muscle. And over time, it becomes less strong, metabolically impaired. And is body fat correlated to it? Yes, an individual could have higher body fat and higher intermuscular adipose tissue, but they could also have a variation in body fat, like a lineman. Maybe they have high body fat but low intermuscular adipose tissue, and their metabolic markers are all good.
Yeah, okay.
The idea that body fat percentage is the most important outcome, I think, is a mistake.
That's just a reflection of what the most important thing is.
Not necessarily. So intermuscular adipose tissue increases with age,
Yep.
increases with sedentary behavior. You'll see, quote, skinny fat.
Yeah.
I think that the issue is not their subcutaneous fat. It's the intermuscular fat.
Wow. Okay.
And that's what we need to actually start focusing on.